Can you imagine a life sentence in prison without any fault? Thousands of people in the world have been convicted wrongfully in a system defined by official indifference. Yes, such cases really exist, and maybe some of them will make you cry in our 10 people found not guilty after serving life sentences. We have unbelievable stories for you, so stay with us until our number 1. Let's begin with a crazy story. Here is our number 10. William Dillon. William Dillon was sentenced to 27 years and 8 months in prison for a murder he did not commit. He was wrongfully convicted in 1981 based on questionable eyewitness identification, unreliable testimony from the handler of a scent tracking dog, and testimony from a jailhouse informant. A man named James Vordak was beaten to death in a wooded area near Canova Beach in Brevard County on Florida's East Coast. Later that morning, a driver picked up a hitchhiker near the beach wearing a bloody yellow t-shirt. Number 9. Peter Lemone. Accused by a former mafia hitman turned FBI informant for the 1965 murder of Edward Deegan, Peter Lemone was sentenced to death and spent the next 33 years in prison. It wasn't until 2000 that a new lawyer found files that proved not only Lemone was innocent, but the FBI had known all along that the informant was lying. In 2001, he was released. Lemone had since sued the FBI, among others, for $375 million. Number 8. Leon Brown and Henry McCollum. The longest-serving death row inmate in North Carolina, spending more than 30 years inside, Henry McCollum and his half-brother Leon Brown were wrongfully convicted in 1983 of the rape and murder of 11-year-old Sabrina Bouy. Aged only 15 and 19 at the time of the conviction, both of the brothers had been diagnosed as having intellectual disabilities and were coerced into giving false confessions. The brothers were released in 2014 after DNA evidence, which not only proved their innocence, but pointed to the guilt of a convicted sex offender who had committed similar crimes. Number 7. James Bain. Convicted in 1974 of a brutal rape and kidnapping of a 9-year-old boy, James Bain spent 35 years in prison, which is the longest sentence at the time for someone wrongfully convicted. Bain became the lead suspect after the victim gave a description of his assailant and said he'd identified himself as Jimmy. After someone mentioned Bain, the victim took Bain on as his attacker, and Bain was arrested, despite the fact that he had an alibi and maintained his innocence throughout. In 2009, he was exonerated of the crime through DNA evidence. Number 6. Albert Woodfox. One of the Angola Three, not only was Albert Woodfox wrongfully convicted in the 1972 murder of a prison guard, but he is also the longest-standing solitary confinement prisoner in the U.S., spending 43 years in continuous isolation in a small cell, let out for only an hour a day to exercise in the yard. He was finally released in 2016 after his conviction was overturned, with Woodfox pleading no contest for lesser charges of burglary and manslaughter. Number 5. Ricky Jackson. For 39 years, Ricky Jackson sat in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Convicted in 1975 with 2 other young black males, Jackson was accused of murdering a white businessman from Cleveland on the sole evidence of 12-year-old Eddie Vernon's eyewitness account. Vernon recounted in 2013, citing police coercion. The charges against Jackson were dismissed, and in 2014 he was released, and has since been awarded $2 million in compensation. Number 4. James Richardson. Story of James Richardson, who had been released from a Florida jail after 21 years at the ripe age of 77 years and being wrongfully sentenced for killing his 7 children. The incident happened when the children began foaming after finishing eating. Special prosecutor Janet Reno agreed to be released after evidence showing that the conviction was due to the prosecutor's misconduct. After Richardson's release in 1989, the governor of Florida ordered an investigation into the prosecutor's office to discover what prompted the miscarriage of justice. Innocent people can spend years in prison for crimes they didn't commit. Some of those are lucky enough to be exonerated, but not before spending decades inside. Can you even practice this for a week? Alas for those families. The wrongful prisons don't end up here. If you think that was bad, wait till you hear how bad the jury got it wrong in the next cases. But before we go on, make sure to subscribe to Inside Tens and hit the bell icon, so you will not miss out on any of our daily stories. Here is our number 3. Daryl Burton. Daryl Burton has spent 24 years unjustly incarcerated in Missouri prisons for the 1984's case of shot and killed Donald Ball at the Amoco gas station. Daryl had nothing to do with the murder. The prosecutor filed a lawsuit against Daryl on the false testimony of one eyewitness, who was not present at the crime scene and who had a criminal record that testified to his promise of a simple sentence for his crimes and lied during his trial. However, after several trials and petitions, he was freed on his second petition. Number 2. Stephen Phillips. Stephen Phillips spent more than 25 years in prison after a series of sex crimes in Texas that he did not commit. He was released on parole in 2007. 1 year later, a DNA test revealed his innocence and he was acquitted. A DNA test that cleared Phillips also involved another man, Sidney Alvin, who allegedly committed at least 16 other sexual assaults and related offenses while Phillips was arrested. Number 1. Charles Chapman. Chapman has served 27 years in prison, the longest period of unjust imprisonment for anyone. He was 20 years old when he was arrested in 1981 and 47 on the day of his release. He was charged with raping a white woman in Dallas County in January of 1981. A 52-year-old white woman reported that an African American had broken into her apartment. The man was wearing a dark cap over his head and forced the woman to undress and proceeded to rape her. Charles was released by proving innocent in the DNA test. Alas for the victims! Just think if this misfortune ever happens to you. What would it feel like to be sentenced for a crime that you have not committed? Share your feelings in the comment section below. Also, subscribe to the Inside 10s and hit the bell icon to be an amazing part of the Inside 10 squad. And check out our videos shown on the left and right side of your screen. See ya!